sales manager at Chamber Customs. We're recording in progress. Would you like to change the slide for us, Heidi, please? Thank you. So yeah, I'm Sam Jones, sales manager at Chamber Customs. I joined the team recently in the last 3 months. And then we've got Steve with us today, Steve Rushton. He's our help desk analyst, but also is the lead on our EXabler support as well. And he's kindly going to do the demo for us this morning. So next slide, please. So Chamber Customs, who are we? So we're experts in international import and export. We offer a speedy declarations service while making sure that your documentation is actually compliant. All of our experts, our expert agents are actually based here in the UK, and they're all at one of your local chambers. And we regularly assist small to very large businesses importing and exporting with our specialist knowledge. Thank you, Heidi. So, is this your current process? An order arrives for goods to be sold or purchased. You then will collate your commercial invoice, packing list, and any other supporting documents that you have. You will then send those over to your freight or customs agent with supporting documents attached to it and any instructions that you've got ready for import-export declaration. At which point you may find that your intermediary who's acting with you, your agent, your freight forwarder, actually asks you for any missing information, which then becomes quite frustrating because you've got to go all the way back to the beginning with this process in order to provide that extra information for them. And then once you've done that, they will obviously then submit it or submit the declaration on your behalf. There you go. They actually send it to HMRC. So where does that leave us? Or where does that leave you? It's time consuming. And have you actually got a full audit trail? Because if you don't have a copy of your entry, then you don't have a full audit trail. And that is obviously down the line, if the HMRC do any checks, that's obviously going to cause you problems. So thank you, Heidi. Why EXabler? So Chamber Customs puts you in control via EXabler of our customer portal, which is probably one of the biggest features of EXabler. It gives you control and peace of mind over your global supply chain and your data. Not everybody is aware, I'm sure possibly you are, but not everybody's aware. If you're self-declaring, you are actually liable for this information that is submitted. And if you're not, and you have an agent, freight forwarder, somebody doing it on your behalf, you're still liable for that information. It can also be tailored to meet your needs, whether you have a low volume, whether you're a low volume exporter or have a daily schedule of multiple shipments going out and coming in. It can keep you updated on your shipments progress while helping you keep a clear audit trail, as it has real-time links with the HMRC. So can you currently demonstrate the full audit trail of a customs declaration? Thank you, Heidi. So what's the cost of compliance? As you're aware, HMRC do regular compliance audits on businesses trading internationally. This is mostly to make sure that the businesses are trading compliantly, but it can also lead to civil penalties. And in more extreme cases, depending on the nature of their findings, something a whole lot worse, really, criminal prosecution or civil penalties. So the things that they may find in your audit that aren't correct, for example, wrong commodity codes, incorrect calculations of your goods of value, or even ineligible preferential goods. So these are all things that are mentioned here that can add up to basically not being compliant and causing unpaid debts and civil penalties. So thank you, Heidi. So how does Chamber Customs work for you? Well, the speed of the automation plus the power of the UK team that's basically backing and behind you and helping you. You have the automation from our online system and the power of a UK team and the knowledge in customs and international trade that our team brings when going through this two-step approach before submitting it to HMRC. So what we'll do now is I will hand over to Steve, and Steve will be able to go through a presentation so you can just see exactly how this can work for you and the benefits of EXabler. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Sam. And yeah, thank you very much for introducing everybody to Chamber Customs and the EXabler portal. And yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on this lovely Friday morning. I hope the weather is a lot better where you are than it is for myself at the moment, but it's that time of year again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I hope everybody can see that okay, and let me know if there are any problems. But what you should be looking at right now is the login to the EXabler portal. So it's entirely web-based. So it's all cloud-based, it's all online. And what I'll be showing you today is what you'll be seeing as a Chamber Customs customer using this portal for submitting export and import declarations. So I'm going to log in just as a demo trader. I do exports, I do imports, I do a bit of everything.
Steve, can we just mention just at this point here, there is a Q&A box for anybody who would like to ask any questions. And if you can fill that in for us, and Steve or myself will endeavour to answer these questions as we're going along. Maybe Heidi can actually read them out for us if we've got any questions. Thanks, Steve.
Of course, and if we don't get time to answer any of those questions, we can always take them away with us and come back to you later on in an email or a phone call, which I'm sure Sam will be able to follow up with you, no problem. So what I'm presented here is the dashboard as I log in. So as you can see, I've blue-peated in some entries already, just to kind of give an idea of what you see when you log in, a full history of the import and export declarations that I've submitted so far. And this is just a general overview with different columns showing different parts of details of these entries. I can change them if I need to. So if I want to add in the type, if I want to take away the country, I can do that, or I can add them back in. That's not a problem. And if I'm not too keen on the order, I can always move it around. So it's very malleable. And we can chop and change as we need to suit your needs. And that's all on your front end side as well. So we don't need to do that. You can make it as personable as you need to. But on the custom status, we can see as well that I have different entries at different stages on their international trade journey. So we have ones that are being reviewed. I've submitted it to my agent. They're currently reviewing it. And others that have either cleared, they've gone through the customs process, or they're kind of halfway there. They're waiting for the goods to come through now. It's been pre-lodged. Let's say it's an import. I can go down as well. Another thing on the EXabler portal is I can message my agent directly. So if I have a query, or say if something is taking a little bit longer to come in than usual, I can get in touch with them through this portal rather than have to send an email or make a phone call. If you want to make a phone call or an email, of course, that's entirely up to you, but it's another way of keeping everything within the system. So if there are any questions later on down the line, you can go back into it. It's all within the entry, and you can see a full history of your messages and any different questions that have come up with your agent. We also have on the side, just quickly brief over these. So your dashboard, so your home button, this will always be here no matter at what stage you're at with your entry. So you can quickly go back to the home page. You can set up organizations, so the different suppliers and customers that you deal with. So you can go back to them at a later date, you can just look at your exports, you can just look at your imports, depending on if you just do one, the other, or both, and some other different functionalities, and a help center with really useful user guides, updates on different releases that we do for the portal. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to dive straight into a new trade. So a big friendly button right at the top. I can set up a new relationship, or I can just pick an existing relationship. So every time I do one in here, it saves the information for me. So I don't have to key it in again, because nobody wants to do these things from scratch over and over again. So I've got a few here. I've got Italian t-shirts, my Austrian supplier who brings me things, which is brilliant, and my customer in Italy as well. But I'm going to pick an import filing with my Austrian supplier. So straight off the bat, I go straight to the items tab where I can enter in the product description, different bits of information on this, the country of origin, and its commodity code. We all love commodity codes, and we all love finding out which ones we need to use. A good part of this portal is it's a really powerful tool that speaks directly to HMRC as well. So if I say I keyed in a commodity code that I've used previously, it looks it up at the tariff and it will bring up the information for me. Brilliant. So that's exactly what I wanted. On the reverse of that, say I wasn't too sure or I made a mistake and I put in that number, I can instantly see that that's not going to go through. It's not going to fly with HMRC. So, okay, I've got to change that back before I get into trouble. Fantastic. So that's a nice green tick just to reassure me. And if I do really need to have a look, I can always click on this button, which will take me to the tariff page for that product. So again, there's lots of different ways that we can double check if we really need to. What I am going to do is I'm going to do something slightly different. And I'm going to load the information from a spreadsheet that I've either entered in myself or I've got the information from my CRM system. So say I'm using SAP or one of those other databases with all of my product information on there. I can grab that information from the system, either putting it into a spreadsheet, or for the more complex, we can get this portal to speak directly with your software and your software provider. But that is, if that's something you wanted to do, then we get our technical people to speak to your technical people. So we don't want to get too bogged down with how that works. We can download a sample straight from there if we need to get an idea of what we need. I already have one prepared, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to load from spreadsheet. And what that will do is it will look for the information and it will just key it all in for me. So I'm bringing in some very nice Portuguese cream cakes. I've got my line total value. I've got my net weight. I know the country of origin, Portuguese. And again, I've got my commodity codes all pre-entered for me. If I need to enter in any more information, I can switch it to advanced and I can enter in, say, license details, IPATs, depending on the kind of product that you export and import. If I don't need to, I can keep it as basic as I want as well. Don't forget that once these are submitted to your agent, you have that human element where they will look at the documentation that goes with it. So say your commercial invoices, your packing lists. And if there is something that isn't quite there, again, they'll use the messaging feature to get in touch with you to make it just really quick process. I can add in my consignment physical details. So the load type, it's going in a full truckload. Package type, it's going on a pallet, and so on and so forth. I can enter in my shipment details. You can see here, I'm going to be using Incoterms, or I'm not going to be using CIP. This is going to be an FCA shipment, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be responsible for the import declaration, but everything else is being handled by my supplier because they're just good people. And that's the kind of relationship we have with them. And it's going to come in by road on a truck Ro-Ro through Dover Eurotunnel, and it's all going to be done that way. And you have your different fields. Again, you can have these pre-entered, like we've got here on the parties. We have the exporters doing my Austrian supplier. The importer is myself as the importer of record. We have our physical. So the great thing with CDS is we do now have more options to add in the different parties if we really have to. But say if you're familiar with how Chief works, we can keep it to just the exporter and the importer. And if you are new to CDS and you feel like I want to know a little bit more about the different requirements and what the different data elements mean, because if you've ever tried to have a look at it, the tariff, it's an amazing resource, but it's also a big resource. But what we have on each box, if you wanted to take a look into, say, educating yourself a little bit, it's a good tool for that as well, where you can click on the link and it will take you straight to the page for that data element. So if you want to learn a bit more about modes of transport, for example, I can go on here and it will take me to the tariff page for that, to save me on a separate occasion to go through and educate myself on CDS. Again, it's an optional thing. If you're not too sure, that's absolutely fine. You can enter in the details you have and the agent will be able to help you from there. Once you've entered in all the information required on here, we can move on to uploading documents. But it's worth mentioning at this point, if, say, I've entered in what I have, what do I need to be able to submit this as a HMRC import declaration? Well, I have a very powerful tool wheel called Fast Check. And what that does is it looks at what I've entered in so far, and it will just highlight for me the different fields that, say, I'm missing. So I forgot to put the invoice reference. That's absolutely fine. I'll put my invoice reference there, and then that would clear it really quick on the right-hand side. And I can work through the different points on here. I have the red crosses, so these are requirements. Anything else is more of an advisory. So just like you're having an MOT on your car, you have the things that need to be done and you have your advisories. They don't need to be done. They're just there for information. But once that would all be complete, I'd get a message to say there's no blockers left. It's all good to go. Upload your documents as required. So I can just drag and drop my commercial invoice into here. And again, it's a good way to keep these documents all within the portal. So not only can your agent access those documents, but when you get a compliance audit from HMRC, say next year, you can hop straight back into this entry and everything is there ready for you to pick it up. Not just your commercial documentation, but any documentation that's generated by the agent once it's put through HMRC. The messages tab, like I've mentioned a couple of times, is just where you'll see the different messages between yourself and the agent. So you've got that line of communication open. And once that's done, it's ready to go. And I can send it off. And then I'll see the progress bar that will keep me informed of where it's at on their journey. And what I can do is I can hop in back into the dashboard again. It's right there. I'll go straight back into the home page and I can click on one of these entries that's already gone through. So this one, it's cleared. So this is an export. So slightly different bits of information. Countries of origin, as you're aware, not required at export unless it's special circumstances. So that's why that's still there. Let's go to my customs filing and just see where it's at on its journey. So a really useful kind of guide here just to show me its draft. That's where it would be while I'm putting it in. I'm reviewing it. My agent is reviewing it. It's there. It's waiting for the goods. It's pre-lodged. It's got customs, it's going through its checks and it's cleared. So my export, it's gone out, it's with my customer now. Job done, fantastic. So I'm going to hop back into the dashboard. So that's your typical uploading journey with submitting through EXabler. Again, as I mentioned, you can just do, say, a one-liner if you're doing one every now and then. You can also go into your exports. If, say, you have a repeat customer sending the same commodity code to them, you can just go to one you've done previously and you can copy it just from there. And it would create an exact copy of the trade you've done already. Or you can go in and you can make the changes as well. So just in case you're using a different invoice number, which you should be, or say the weights have changed, they've added a little bit more to their order because they enjoyed the last one so much. I'm going to hop back on my dashboard.
Steve, sorry to interrupt you. Is it
Of
possible
course.
to just show a spreadsheet, one of the spreadsheets that you would be using?
Of course. So what I'm going to do is I will open the spreadsheet from my side here. That's a really good question, actually. Just to give an idea of a simplified version, as I mentioned, you can make it as simple or as complex as you wish, depending on your circumstances. And this is going off the sample that I would be getting from the website itself. So as we saw, the details we saw on the entry, our commodity code, our product description, item origin, we have the ISO code there. And if we need to remind ourselves of what they are, they've added in a tab of what each ISO code is that works with the EXabler and HMRC system as well. And we can add in things here if needed, or if we don't want to put in a weight, we can just get rid of that. That's not a problem at all. What I will do is I'll move on to showing, say, a more complex scenario where we are sending out more products and bringing in more products. And we don't want to go through adding in all this extra stuff. So I've got all the information from my system. I just want to put it into EXabler straight away. And that's really easy to do. Again, you got your load from spreadsheet option, but this time on the reporting and data option there. And what I'll do is I'll just import a slightly bigger Excel spreadsheet with a bit more information in there. And I can add in as many as I want. So it's not limited to just having one per spreadsheet. I can have 2, I can have 5, I can have 20. And it's recognized that I've got an import and an export down here. I'm going to save both of them onto there. I'm going to go to my import. So I can jump straight to it from that screen, so I don't have to go into any of the other screens as well. And again, we have our information all pre-entered. And I'm going to go to my fast check. All I need is my location of goods, and that's it. So I'm going to go in to my shipment details. And I'm just going to tell it that it's going to go through the Dover Eurotunnel. Check my fast check again. Sorted, no blockers left. So it's all done for me, and I can go straight on to submitting it to my agent, who will then be able to review it on my behalf. If they do have any questions, they can use the messaging tab. But again, like you do with, say, any other supplier, you build your rapport, you build a relationship. And because our agents are chamber agents and they are very familiar with working with exporters and importers, especially with producing certificates of origin, they tend to see the same thing come through, and they build that relationship, and they know, they get an idea of your business and the type of products that you export and import, and it's all UK based, and it's a great way of developing that relationship with them as well. So if you do have any questions, you have full recourse with them wherever you are based in the UK. So I'll just quickly wrap up before I hand back over to Sam. It's a very powerful tool. It's really useful. It can be as basic, it can be as complex as you like, depending on the nature of trades that you do. Any other kind of setups, you can always speak to our technical people, and they're always on hand. And again, your agents are very familiar with the software itself, so you can always get in touch with them for any kind of questions that you might have on that level. And you have your real-time updates as well, because it's so connected with HMRC. With that progress bar that I showed you previously, is that will update you as your goods come through the port. So say it's 2 in the morning, you just can't sleep, you need to know where your import is at. You can have a look and you can see it's at customs. I can go back to bed now, so it's all fantastic. And yeah, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat. We'll try to answer them. One thing I didn't mention, and I have had asked me a couple of times before, is do I need to save my progress? So, well, no, you don't, because that's one of the handy things with it being an online portal. It's cloud-based, it auto saves for you. So I'm very busy in my workday. Quite often I have to chop and change between 2 different things or 5 different things. And if I'm halfway through an entry, I can just drop it, go away, do something else, and I can just hop back in and everything will be as I left it. And I can pick up straight from there. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, hand back over to Sam or to Heidi. And yeah, thank you very much for being with me. And yeah, again, any questions, just pop them in the chat.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was great. Thank you for explaining. So I think the situation we're in, from the example we had before, where we said obviously it can become quite a messy situation when you're having to report information back. The difference with EXabler is your order arrives, you follow your EXabler guided process, then upload any documentation and submit. Then your full check by your qualified agent here at the chambers before submission to HMRC, and then you receive your updates in real time. So next slide, please, Heidi. Sorry, I'm pressing and nothing's happening.
Yeah, Heidi, if you're okay to just share the slides again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Stephen, and thanks very much for the demo. So we do have one question, and that is, do we need to upload documents? And if so, can you show us how to do that?
So yes, you would need to, just like you do with the current process that you may be doing with, say, your freight forwarder or your agent. You typically send them your commercial documentation, so your invoice, your packing list, any kind of transport documents that you'd have as well. So what I'll do is I will show you that that function on here. So I'm going to go back into my imports that I set up on our demo. I'm going to upload my document. I can drag and drop them into here, or I can click on the box to bring up my Finder if I need to. I can import my commercial invoice, is one I set up earlier. And I can just tell the system what kind of document it is. And it's very useful. It has a very useful list of documents that I can pick from. So I've got my commercial invoice, fantastic. It could be a bill of lading, a houseway bill, but say it's something completely different and I don't have it on that list. So say I have a customs invoice, just purely for customs purposes, depending on the nature of import or export that I'm doing, and I can add it in. Yeah, and I can use that again if I need to do a similar type of import, upload it to the system, sorted, okay, and there it is. And that's what I'll see when I hop back into the entry at a later date. And it's also what the agent would see once they pick up the declaration on their side as well.
Perfect. And this can all, this is all for the purpose of checking the customs declaration from our customs agent side, but also to keep the full audit trail easily to access for the customer, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. So we do have another question, and it's, if the customs agent has any questions, do they contact us through the portal?
So if they had any questions for your declaration, they would typically get in touch with you through the portal. So you can hop to your messages tab and they would use that depending on the job they're going through as well. So each message would show up on the entry that you've raised on the portal. It would come through on here. You'd see a full record. I don't have any messages I can show you today because these are just demo ones, but I can certainly show you another time if you wanted to set up a different demo with one of us. And if you say you're not on the portal all the time, you can set the system up to give you email notifications as well. So you'd always know that when a message has been sent to you from the agent, so you're not going to miss out on anything.
Perfect. And that is all the questions we have in the chat at the moment. So shall I share my screen for the rest of the presentation, Sam?
Yeah, lovely, Heidi. Thank you.
So we've done the demo. Next screen, there we go.
Okay, so as I mentioned previously, the pattern of how it would flow now is your order arrives, you follow all your EXabler guided process, you upload your documentation and then you submit it. Then your qualified agent will check everything before it is submitted to HMRC, and then you can receive your updates in real time. So moving on to the next slide, using this system, the EXabler system, there are huge amounts of benefits, and you can see those in front of you. I think some of the most important benefits are, first of all entries are checked by a qualified agent before sending to HMRC. So you know that you will be compliant, which is the most important thing. You will also be able to see any of your paperwork documentation on our system, so it keeps a complete history for you. So if for any reason you do get a HMRC audit, you will be able to put your hands straight away on the paperwork that they're requesting, and you haven't got any frustrations of having to wait for somebody to come back with you. So you've got your full audit trail. And the integration with your existing systems and processes is very easy, and we can get, as Steve quite put it, our people to talk to your people and make sure that everything is working for you. And so really, in a nutshell, it's complete peace of mind. So moving on now, thanks Heidi, the next steps. I'm here to give you any more information that you could possibly want. I would like to be able to contact everybody at the beginning of next week, which will give you a little bit of time to digest the information we've given to you today and maybe talk to other people within the business. My email address is there. I'm sure most of you actually have it, but it's s.jones@chambercustoms.co.uk, and my phone number is on there for you also. So I will be in touch at the beginning of next week to see if we can be of any further assistance for you. And if you have any colleagues that you feel might benefit from seeing the demonstration that you may need to show it to, then by all means, please drop me a line and I can arrange that for you, and Steve and I will come on and do that for you. I'd just like to say a big thank you for attending. This was my first solo flight, so apologies if it's a little bit clunky, but I'm going to get there. And thank you for attending today, and look forward to speaking to you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Sam. Okay.
Pleasure.
Thank you for attending, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care.